Hey, how's it going? So this one isn't about mental health. It's not about something I'm struggling with. It's not about anything like that. I mean, maybe you could tie it to that. This is just something that I am slightly passionate about. Nothing crazy, but the Internet Archive and preservation of art and media is something that is genuinely really important to me. This has been a big discussion as we have begun to move towards the digital future, which I'm sure is something that you've heard about before. The PS5 Pro just recently launched. $700, no disk drive. My Xbox Series S, no disk drive. My PC, this isn't anything new, but no disk drive. Streaming services, the fall of Blu-ray and DVD. We are more and more as the year goes on. It's 2025 now. Who is going out and buying even just Blu-rays nowadays? I would say most people are buying games, on the Xbox store, the PlayStation store, on Steam. Who's going out and buying physical games? I might be one of the last people. I pre-ordered Astrobot at GameStop. I was the only person, I think, at that GameStop to do that. But like I said, this isn't anything new. But I recently had an issue. I had to do a project and I needed a book. And the only way I could find this book, because I'm broke and didn't want to spend a ton of money, was the Internet Archive. I found a copy on there, and I was reading it and working on my project and taking notes, stuff like that. And then one day, I went on, and it was down. Now, this was a couple of months ago. I think it was 2 months ago or so. And the Internet Archive had, I don't know if it was DDoSing or something, but there was some attack towards it. And it was down for a couple days. And this fucked me, like it really did. I had to go elsewhere and find an audiobook, and it sort of highlighted the importance of this service for me and for a lot of people across the world who maybe don't have access to a lot of things that we take for granted, whether it's just something simple like a movie. In a lot of other countries, you might see, maybe in Brazil or something, they still sell like Sega Genesises, or Master Systems and stuff like that, and pirating is so big. That's because, something like a PlayStation 5 there is out of the cards. It's so expensive. Movies aren't localized. Shows aren't localized. Books aren't sold there. And so people have to, pirate things, go out of their way to access this stuff. And me personally, I don't see a problem with that. Now, I am not a legal expert or anything like that, but I have held the opinion that legality does not equal morality. I do not see an issue with pirating in the majority of cases in which it takes place. And I know that for some people, that's a hot topic. But for me, when I think about it, a lot of the games I've played as a kid, I was downloading ROMs and installing it onto my school computer and playing, Sega Genesis games or SNES games and stuff like that. And while a lot of people don't see emulation, with like Super Mario or something like that as piracy, it is, even if it's low grade and I'm not going to go to jail for it. Without that, I would not have been able to experience those games. And I'm someone who lives in America. I'm very fortunate to have access to so many of these things. I speak English, which is the main language which a lot of these things are produced in, and I do have access to, as long as I have the money, to purchase these things. But even in my situation, where I'm very fortunate, there are still times when I need something or I want something and I can't get it. And there are a lot of people that'll say, oh, just tough luck, fuck you, get the money, figure it out. You can't have everything in life. But I think that in the world we live in is really lame, especially when it does come down to stuff like academia or, not just something that is, to sit down and watch a movie. If I need a textbook and I can't find it anywhere but somewhere like the Internet Archive, and then that place is getting taken down or getting sued by some copyright holder, that genuinely sucks and affects me. So it isn't even just media or entertainment, even though I think that entertainment should still be available to those who want it. I don't remember where the quote's from. It might even be from someone like Marx or something like that. But, there's a quote that's like, art should not be limited to only those who can afford it, or something like that. And that is genuinely something that I believe in. Entertainment, art, recreation in general should not be something that is unattainable to somebody based on the amount of money they have or based on where they live. Now, like I said, this could get into legal discussions or a larger political discussion, but this is not the place for that. And if you want to have that conversation, go argue with people on Twitter or in the comment section of some other video. This is not the place for that. But I just think it's interesting how even someone like me, who's very fortunate to have access to a lot of this stuff, behind me as I'm recording this, I have a shelf full of movies and video games. So it's not like I'm going out and pirating video games every single day. And it's not even really pirating, right? I don't know what you'd classify it as, but there's been multiple times when I've needed to find an old movie and it's not on any streaming service. So where do I have to go? A lot of the times it was the Internet Archive. It was maybe sketchy websites or asking people like, hey, do you have this? Because, I don't have libraries near me. It's not on a streaming service. It's not available. It's not like I don't have cable. And I think that highlighted for me the scary future that I think we are going into. Now, when I say scary, obviously, maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic, right? But I do think that there is a real issue when it comes to preservation. I do think that there is a coincidence as to the rise of lost media, because media, as we move forward, isn't always preserved. In a lot of cases, it isn't preserved. Maybe even in the majority of cases, it is just lost to time. And there are so many instances of even high-profile IP, whether it's SpongeBob, something like the Halo beta that just recently got leaked. Very notable franchises from large companies, just things that are just lost to time. And I think it isn't a coincidence that as we move toward an all-digital future and as things aren't being preserved, as things aren't being uploaded to streaming platforms or databases, I think a lot of us are starting to realize how we don't actually own a lot of this stuff. And there are so many things that, maybe it's silly to have a connection to something like a video game or a movie, but I think a lot of stuff like this is important to a lot of people, including me. And I think as we move forward to this all digital future, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that we don't actually own this stuff. We don't have access to it if we really want to. If a copyright holder decides one day that there's a certain show you love, if a copyright holder says, I don't want to pay, the fee to this company to host it on this platform anymore, so we're just going to take it down, and it's not available anywhere else, good luck. Unless you want to go some illegal routes like I have had to do and how many people in other countries and even in America have had to do to get access to certain things, you're kind of out of luck. And I think there are so many people that have just a complete absolutist approach to this and say that, no, you're committing a crime. This is absolutely unallowed. How dare you? You deserve to get sued. You deserve to get fined, whatever it may be, whatever the penalties may be for downloading something like a movie online. And I think that is really lame. Like I said earlier, I don't believe that information, whether it be movies or video games or art or textbooks or books, audiobooks, documentaries, articles, whatever it is, should be locked behind a paywall, should be locked behind what are, in reality, very arbitrary walls that stop people, normal people, even fortunate people like me, from accessing it. And that is something that I am not shaken from. No matter how many times Nintendo sues somebody, no matter how many times the Internet Archive gets DDoSed and taken down or gets threatened to be sued or whatever it may be, it is an unshakable position for me. I think that we live in an incredibly fortunate time where leisure is very accessible and entertainment is very accessible. And I think that is awesome. And art and movies and video games have gotten me through awful times. And I think that should be available to everybody. And like I said, it's not even just about leisure. I needed a movie for a class or I needed a book for a class and I couldn't find it. And this happened multiple times. And the only place I could find it was on a place like the Internet Archive, a place that is constantly being attacked and sued and DDoSed, even though it serves such an enormous and necessary purpose for so many people. I'm trying to think of how to wrap this all up into a point, but I guess it's just really interesting to see where we are heading with information, with the internet, with, physical media going away, and with the rise of lost media and, all this stuff sort of coming together and making me realize how fragile a lot of the stuff I hold dear is. A lot of the stuff I grew up with, or a lot of the stuff I need, to write a fucking paper or watch a movie, I don't know, it's weird. I'm not even like I'm not like a kleptomaniac collector that's like, I gotta get every single, show I like on DVD and I gotta buy every single game. No, sure, I buy a lot of the stuff that means a lot to me just to make sure I do have it in the future. Even that isn't foolproof. But even that isn't foolproof, Disk rot is a real thing. Cartridges decay and hardware fails. Eventually, my Xbox 360 will break. Eventually, all my 360 discs will rot. And I don't know where I'll be. Maybe that'll happen long after I'm dead and I won't have to worry about it. But if that happens in my lifetime and these games aren't hosted anywhere legally, I'm going to find ways to get around it. I'm going to find ways to experience this stuff. You even kind of see it with recent stuff like Bloodborne. Sure, you can buy it on the PS4, but that's not accessible to everybody. And it hasn't been re-released on PC or on Xbox or anywhere else. So, of course, something like Shad PS4 the most recent and most advanced PS4 emulator, is making huge strides right now just to play this one game. Now, it's not just to play Bloodborne, but that is a big factor, and this shows how important something like a game is to people. And I think that that is awesome. I don't know. Something I've been thinking about, and it's something that I think I've even talked about before on this channel, but having it be an issue with something even like school, you know, not something just like a silly movie or something like that, really highlighted how important this stuff is for me. And hopefully you guys agree. I mean, I guess to shareholders and copyright holders and big companies, it doesn't really matter, and they just care about making money, which sucks. But yeah, it's gonna be for today's video. I got Twitter and stuff in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, see you guys.